So, I apologize that there hasn't been much Christmas scenery around here, but I thought maybe to include one piece of Christmas scenery for the time being until my setup is finally ready. So I am going to pull out something from my Christmas tub that we have here. It says all my Christmas stuff in it. I'm going to say majority of it because there's another bin that we have. But I'm going to pull something out from this bin and I'm going to put it right here and we're going to have fun with it as I talk about this next film. So let's open her up. Oh, damn it. This is my Halloween bin. We should really label these bins. There's about 5 of them, the exact same color. Hello, welcome to the Wild Review on the Wild Reviewer, and welcome to day 6 of 25 Wild Review Days. Yesterday I talked about the very popular Rankin Bass tale that told us the origin stories of Santa Claus. Today I'm going to tell the tale that Disney brought us that tells us how Santa Claus died and how the man from Home Improvement took over his life. This is the Santa Claus. Released in 1994, the Santa Claus, with an E at the end of the word Claus, focuses on a man named Scott Calvin, played by Tim Allen, who has a child named Charlie, who's played by Eric Lloyd, who doesn't exactly know for sure if Santa Claus is real or not, which kind of bums out his whole holiday experience, seeing that he has to spend it with his dad, who's divorced to his mom. On that magical night known as Christmas Eve, as he spends it with his dad, they get a visit from Santa, only for Scott to get very concerned as why somebody's on his roof, and as he goes outside, he discovers it's Santa and his reindeer, though he doesn't believe it and yells at him and he falls off the roof. This leads to probably the best scene ever in a Christmas film. Just a man in his underwear running outside in the snow screaming at this guy on the roof, and the guy falls off the roof. He kills Santa Claus. Very concerned to exactly what's going on, he walks over to see that the guy has no identification other than a card that says if something were to happen to put on his suit and that the reindeer will know what to do. When he sees the reindeer, he sees the sleigh, Charlie comes out, Scott puts the coat on, and Scott and Charlie end up taking a wild ride in Santa's sleigh, as now Scott is the one delivering all the gifts to all the little boys and girls. With Christmas morning approaching as the sun rises, Scott delivers all the gifts to the kids and plans on going back home, but the reindeer have other plans as they bring him and Charlie back to the North Pole, only for Scott and Charlie to be exposed to the North Pole in Santa's workshop. And Scott discovers that because he put Santa's jacket on, he learns that he is now invoked in the Santa Claus, which implies that if anything were to happen to Santa, the person that puts his suit on is the one that's going to become the next Santa. Scott refuses to accept this, although Charlie is really excited about this, and it boosts his enthusiasm in believing in Santa now, knowing that his dad is Santa. Though this obsession with Scott becoming Santa is so embedded in Charlie's head that Charlie ends up telling everyone, from the kids at school to even his mom and stepdad. Everyone gets very concerned about this whole situation, and they have a talk with Scott saying that it kind of needs to stop, in which Scott makes sure it happens. However, over the course of the year, we see that as we approach the next Christmas, Scott's appearance seems to be changing. As he's gaining weight, his hair's becoming white, and he's becoming more jolly. And it comes to the point where he has to face facts that he is now the new Santa, and this gets to the point where Charlie's mom and stepdad get very concerned that now they try to keep Scott and Charlie away from each other. Gets a little wild at the end, but it's a Disney film. Everything good happens at the end. The parents find out that Scott is in fact Santa. Scott is brought to jail at one point, but then he's released by elves, and Christmas is saved. It's not one of those films, but you get the idea. It's a pretty good film. I'll say this much about the Santa Claus. I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get to see the outside of Santa's workshop. Okay, well let me start with this. The one thing I can definitely compliment about this film, along with the other three, because it keeps this whole little idea the same for the rest of the films that no other Christmas film seems to be doing. I like that the elves are actually played by kids. And that's just something that you would never really put together. Usually elves are played by small people, but they actually have children playing the elves, which I think is pretty clever. I also like a lot of the effects in this movie. Like, the main thing that I think about when I think of this movie is that one scene where there isn't a chimney and there's just like a little radiator and that magically transforms into a chimney. I think that's really cool, the way that that whole scene was put together. But going back to the North Pole thing that I started out with, I'm a little disappointed we don't really see the outside of it, but then again, I guess they never really imagined to do 2 sequels, which later happened a few years later. Definitely the North Pole is what's different in this film. A lot of things are different, merely because, again, you can't really base it off the 2 sequels. Those came later. I'm going to assume that they only thought they were only going to do 1 movie. But the North Pole is pretty cool. At least from what we see of it. We really don't see many different rooms of it. We only see Santa's room, we see like the little reindeer pit, we see a few hallways. That's really about it. As a whole, this film is really funny. It's a classic. Again, I love watching this film. It's got a lot of funny moments in it. Tim Allen does a really good job playing this character. I love how his feelings for Santa Claus changes throughout the film, and I also love the transformation that we see in this film with him becoming Santa. His reactions towards that is very funny. There's I don't know the name of the guy, he was in Everybody Loves Raymond, but he later plays Father Time in the Santa Claus series. He is in this film, but he's playing a normal human person. He's like one of Scott's co-workers in this film. It's pretty interesting that he later is playing Father Time in this series. One has to wonder if he is the same guy and maybe the same thing happened to him. I don't know. I just thought that'd be pretty clever. But yeah, really good film. I love watching it every year. I'm a little upset that when they play it on TV, they kind of cut out a few funny parts. Like, there's one scene that they always seem to cut out when they air it on TV, where Scott's at the doctor's and the guy checks his heartbeat, and his heartbeat is playing Jingle Bells. I think that's pretty hilarious. There's also another scene they seem to have shortened, and that's when Scott gets all the packages, which is actually the naughty and nice list, and he runs after the mail trucks that left them there. It's kind of a shame what they decide what to put on TV just because of time. You have to take into consideration the commercial breaks and everything. Yeah, what are you gonna do? So yeah, the Santa Claus. Again, I love watching it. It's a classic. I enjoy it very much. And the sequels aren't that bad either. And we're going to touch upon those in the next few days. So hopefully you come back tomorrow. We're going to touch upon the Santa Claus 2, where we're going to talk about Scott getting a wife. Because that's what the second one's all about. Well, the second one's about a lot of things, but that's the primary topic about it. So thanks for watching The Wild Review. Come back tomorrow. We got more fun here on 25 Wild Christmas Review Days. Thanks for watching The Wild Review on The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw me review a thing.